If you got a chance to interview one of the most admired people in the world from this list, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, Jackie Chan, Oprah Winfrey, Queen Elizabeth, could you do it? Would you be prepared today if you got to interview one of these people? So research and being prepared for the interview, that's our topic today. Think about this. So pick somebody from your list. Could you write 2 questions right now that would be smart, intelligent questions that would elicit the kind of information you would like to have from that person? Being prepared in advance of an interview or anything that you're covering is really key to what we do. So one of the things that I asked you to do is check out that video with Greg Popovich, the Spurs coach. It is certainly entertaining because Pop is known as one of those entertaining, quotable coaches in the NBA. But think about this, as much fun as we have at the expense of those people, the journalists who are asking the questions, if your goal is to get meaningful information, were those questions effective? Like, were those journalists effective? Far too many cliches. Anyway, a little fun at their expense, but a good lesson. Ask good questions, really get prepared. When you're doing an interview, you've got a lot at stake. When you're interviewing someone, they have a lot at stake. And so to be successful and to have a professional interview, let's look at a couple of things we need. So from your point of view, the interviewer, you need useful, accurate information in a timely manner. You need it when you need it. And you need good quotes, right? So that's one of the main things. That's one of the main ways we do storytelling is with good quotes from people. So you need somebody who can speak articulately to the point most of the time, or to tell a good story. You need to be able to identify the person because we need people's full identification, first name, last name, often their age, where they're from, what they do. We need that to add credibility to the information. And we need to be able to take notes. That seems pretty simple, but certainly there have been times in my career when I said, could I record this for accuracy purposes? People are like, no, I don't want you to record that. Or I don't want you to even take notes. And it's hard to be accurate and to recall the information if you're not taking notes. One of the other ethics points when we're talking about from the journalist perspective, which is different from the PR perspective, is that journalists don't offer up their questions in advance. Now, we may offer the topic and some examples of questions, but I don't always know all the questions. In fact, I don't know all the questions I want to ask during an interview because it really depends on the answers to the questions. From the PR side of it, you have a difficult time on the PR side of it because often the people you're working for want all those questions in advance. And so being able to artfully work around that and say, like, here's the topic, here are these things, but there will be other questions. And PR people, for some PR people, their job is to work with their bosses to prepare them for the kinds of questions they will be asked. So from the interviewee's perspective, the person you're interviewing, they have a right to expect you to use the information accurately, right? So, and if you make a mistake, that you will correct it. So the information has to be cared for, right? Used accurately. They expect to be accurately identified, with their title, what they do, name, spellings, that sort of thing. And they expect professional behavior, and we need to be professional. So that means respecting a person's time, being prepared, so being on time, being early, but also being prepared with information for the interview so that you don't have to ask very basic questions that you should know going in. The person has certainly should expect to know the topic of the story, right? You're going to get better information from somebody if the person knows what you want to ask about. You may not know all the questions, but if you want some specific data or some specific information, it's helpful to say, this is the kind of stuff I'm looking for. And follow-up questions. Really, follow-up questions are key. It's not so much about that first question you ask. It's about listening for the answer and then being able to take it from there. An interview is a conversation, right? So if you can put your notes away, put your questions away, and just ask a question and then take the conversation where it goes, that really is the most useful interview. So what should you do and what shouldn't you do when it comes to interviews? So do ask follow-up questions. They are key. It's perfectly okay to ask somebody to repeat themselves if you didn't understand what they said. You ask them to explain it, or just to confirm, like, did you say this? What can you say that again so I'm sure I understand? It's also important, it's critical for you to make sure that you have all the essential information. So sometimes you only get one chance to ask the questions. Sometimes you can't go back and ask follow-up questions later. So make sure you've got everything you need. And get good quotes, right? Get good quotes. Not everybody is terribly quotable, but work on sort of asking questions in a way that will let somebody tell their story in sound bites, we hope, right? That's kind of the way that works best for us. This is what you don't do. Don't ask a question that you already know the answer to. I mean, mostly, that we can get sort of into deeper philosophical ways of interviewing, but in essence, if you've done the background research or this is something you can find out easily, you should have that already. And so you don't want to start with, well, tell me what is astrophysics, right? Instead, you say, oh, I read the research you did on this. Can you explain that more to me? The other thing is think of this professionally. Although you may have a personal interest in the topic that you're interviewing about, in fact, you may easily have a personal interest, it isn't about information for you. It's about information for your audience. So sometimes one of the things that can happen, especially if we're doing, if we have a speaker in class and they're telling you about career services, if we're approaching it from a professional perspective, we might say, what should students know about this? As opposed to you saying, I'd like an internship. What do I need to do next? Right, so put it more from that professional distance. Research, right? That's going to get you to that place where you have a good interview. So yes, the short answer is you can Google it, right? That is really the first stop for everybody, or whatever search you use. So that's perfectly okay. But if you have to go beyond the first page, you may need to find something else. And in fact, do you ever go beyond the first page, right? Like, did you know that there are sometimes, I don't know, thousands of pages for what you just Googled? So there are more effective ways. You can use Google Advanced Search, which if you haven't done that, it's definitely worth it. All these different ways, this is where you can exclude words, add words. But the most useful things can be items like this where you can limit it to a specific type of domain, a .edu, which is education, or a .gov. Or where you can look for a specific file type. Sometimes I search for Excel files because I'm looking for actual databases. And so you won't find them. They're not as searchable if you're just trying to go for that first couple pages in Google, but you can limit it to that specific file type. Very helpful. And then you have this wonderful research database. The database is here at Texas State. And so the library is a great resource. You don't even have to go in the building, although you should. It's not a bad place. So at Alkek, there's research databases. And you can, when you get to the page, there's many ways to access it. You can find a database by the name, alphabetically, by the topic. So if you're looking for law and government or management or any number of things, you can find it that way. There's a drop-down list of ways to find information, and you can even chat with the librarian just to ask, hey, I'm looking for this kind of thing. What is the best resource? I like Lexis. So Lexis is a helpful database where you can do everything from like TV transcripts to, they have a number of press releases and different types of PR related things, as well as news and even legal. So this is one of my go-tos. And why should you use that? Because you don't even have to climb the steps to the library, first of all. You can do it online. But your tuition and fees help pay for the databases of the library. So if you're taking 15 hours, you're paying almost $200 a month, a semester for the library. So you should use it. The public library also is a great resource. We say it's free, but somebody's paying taxes. And so even if you're renting, there's still taxes, property taxes going into that rent. So get a public library card wherever you're from. Also many digital resources, right? So you don't actually have to go to the library. You can just go to the library app with your library card. So anyway, public libraries, very helpful, especially when you get out to go to work and you don't have the Alkek databases anymore. The Austin Library has great databases too. Let's talk just for a minute about once we've done our background, we've got our questions. So how should you do the rest of the interview? Should you record? A lot goes into this. There's lots of pros and cons. Legally, you can record so long as one person, when you're in Texas, so long as one person knows it's being recorded. Ethically, I always ask if I can record for accuracy purposes. And if I want to do something with the recording, like use some audio files, I might just say, may I record? Lots of multimedia options you can do with audio now. Recording can be less intrusive than taking massive amounts of notes, although I am a big note taker, because if I don't take notes, the recording will fail. Actually, if I do take notes, it won't fail because, that's the law. Transcribing can take a long time, although there are transcription services. Most of them cost money. However, 15 minutes at a time, YouTube will transcribe for you. That's a thought. The problem is if you're going to use your phone to record, you can't use it for other things while you're recording the interview. Just a thought, and put it on airplane mode, because if somebody calls you or you get a text in the middle of it, it'll stop. So anyway, the other problem is if you're not taking notes, you may not remember some of the things from the interview. So note-taking really can help us remember. In fact, there's been some research that says that students who take notes by hand outperform those even who take notes on laptops. So think about what that means for you as you're doing an interview and trying to recall the information for a story. Writing it in your brain via putting it in a notebook can really help you get organized and work quickly on deadline. Take notes, take notes, take notes. Take them by hand. Keep your questions off to the side. It's really just about, like I said, kind of writing it on your brain. That's what's important. There are note-taking apps. Yeah, you figure out if that's what's going to work for you. I like a notebook, just that way. The bottom line is it pays to know stuff, right? So that's why you do the current events quizzes. That's why you're constantly consuming information, because then it makes it much easier to research and also just to know stuff before you even have to research when you go into an interview. Know stuff,